Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is my 5 cents on MakersMuse's video that's called The 7 Deadly Sins of 3D Printer Companies. And I really appreciate that he made this video because it is talking a lot of truth, and this video is definitely something that you should watch if you're interested in the creator community and what's going on with manufacturers approaching creators like us to make free product reviews and what's going on behind the scenes, basically. Taking on that video that MakersMuse posted, I think it was 2 weeks ago now. I've linked the video here in the description, so if you're interested to see that, you should also watch it. And I want to go through a few points, give my 5 cents on those. So first of all, I totally agree that there is good examples and bad examples. So there is companies and manufacturers who are doing a good job in working with creators on making product reviews and having a good relationship and a fair kind of relationship where there's no one pressuring you to do a positive review, but really to be objective, and they are mostly interested to work with you. Yeah, get a review of the product and an honest review. I really want to mention some of the positive ones like Prusa, FlashForge, and also Lotmax. And especially with Lotmax, I had a pretty good relationship with them in the beginning, especially when I had requested them to make some firmware changes, and they immediately did that. So that is a good example. And there's bad ones, and most of the bad ones are coming from resellers who are approaching you mostly via email. And in the beginning, you get the impression that the manufacturer is actually asking you to do a product review. But if you look deeper, you will see that these are actually resellers who are just interested in placing their shop link in your description of the video that you're making. And they also mostly approach you in kind of the way that's meant to be, yeah, can you make a positive review? And if you're doing the review, can you send us the video up front so we can probably make some changes to it? And when I see this happening, I totally disagree and decline these kind of requests. So I'm only working with companies directly and not with resellers. And very frankly, if you're a creator and you want to make some money with a product, you want to place your own affiliate link in a video description or not someone else's. So because that is otherwise this is going to make it even worse. So you're basically doing the video for free, and then you're not even allowed to use your own links. I think that is very bad. In the beginning, when you are a small channel, I can imagine that getting a free product and accepting that as the payment might look attractive. But if you're getting larger and you're interested in working more seriously on your channel, I think you should definitely decline these kind of requests where there's no kind of compensation going on for you to making and putting in hours and hours of work, and then like a printer that is probably worth $200 doesn't look really like a good deal in terms of a payment if you are into paid reviews, so to say. If you're looking at the market, it's definitely oversaturated. There's so many products coming out every week that every manufacturer and every reseller tries to push these products into the market, and so they are trying to approach every creator they can find that is somewhat related to their niche. Electronics is pretty big. For example, I get all kinds of requests to make product reviews for things that have zero connection to 3D printing, and I also always decline these because it doesn't really make sense. So they are there and they are pretty aggressively pushing out in the market and trying to find people who are willing to accept these products for free and make a free review without any further compensation. So I think like if you're looking at the topic itself, making a product review and taking the product as the payment, is that good or bad? You have to judge yourself. I think if you have not set standards how you want to approach a product review, you're likely getting into the situation where you're kind of pushed into a corner and you are kind of obligated to make a good review about a product, which means a positive review, and any kind of critique and negative words in that review is going to lead to those companies requesting you to take down the video or change the video. I think that is not a place where you want to be, so you should set some standards very early in the beginning, and I did that as well. And I said always to these companies, when I'm making a review, first of all, there's no guarantee that there's going to be a review if you send me something. There is no guarantee when this is coming out. There is no guarantee that it's going to be positive. And I'm not sending you the video up front. So I'm pushing it out and then it's online and then you can do whatever you want. But this is an independent review and this has been always the case. Just because there are so many requests coming in, at some point I decided I will stop doing this. Like, it was just too much in the last year, and so I started turning down basically all the requests coming in. I still have kind of a backlog that I will work on to the end of the year, but from there I can't tell you what's going on. Next year I think I'm gonna turn down most of the requests, especially if they're not coming from the manufacturers themselves. I think in general you have to be very selective who you want to work with, and you should think about charging real money instead of just taking a product, because I think it's very questionable in the end if a product is payment. It might be if it's like your first printer or maybe your second one, and then you want to like take that as the payment. But once you start getting more and more free products, it is kind of an obligation to do all these kinds of reviews. So you should start becoming more selective, also thinking about your time. Can you do it actually? Do you have the time? And then charging money will basically be kind of a blocker to all these companies who are just looking to push out products for free. So they should think about what it is worth for them to get a really good review, in terms of good not being positive, but good, it means thorough and honest. Another thing that I kind of got later in the process of becoming a larger channel is that you should actually use the product a lot before you actually do some kind of review. And I think that is something that a lot of channels are missing out. They are accepting these products and they are using it for a few hours and then making the review based on this short amount of experience. I think it is a big mistake to do that. I mean, I'm not judging anyone here, but I would say if you're not really into using the product a lot, then you shouldn't do a review about it, because only if you use it for a certain amount of time, you can really get an impression, is the product really good? Does it work for a longer amount of time? Does it have any flaws that are not visible in the first few hours of the product getting used? And that's why, for example, I always say I'm doing 200 hours of printing with a 3D printer before I make a review, because in these 200 hours, so many things can happen and some things can break. But if you're just doing like 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, it can be that the product works totally fine, and after that it would probably break. So this is something that you where the standard setting is really important, and where I also see that some people like Tom, who is having another channel, you probably know it, he has a pretty good policy about reviews, and I've taken a lot of these ideas from the policy and applied it to my own policy. And you should set these standards pretty early, as I said already. Our next one is about Kickstarters. I see this as a trend and it's definitely getting worse and worse. So Kickstarters are misused as a way to collect the money, although you actually would have the money to produce the product. And there's going to be a lot of hype around these Kickstarters. So you're probably paying more in a Kickstarter because it's so overhyped for a product that is actually worth less, and that you can get for the same kind of discount that is going to be offered to you in the Kickstarter as a special early bird discount. You can probably get that discount pretty early after the product has been released to the market. A good example for that is the CR30, the belt printer from Creality. I think it was one of the most overhyped products ever on Kickstarter in terms of 3D printers. I've ordered it on the Kickstarter and I think it's still overhyped. It's not as a good product as it was supposed to be. Another example of a Kickstarter where the thing actually went wrong is the Polysmoother project. So it is a product which is supposed to help you smooth your prints using alcohol or any kind of other fluid material that is going to dissolve in that machine and then smooth the surface of the print. That money is probably lost. So if you're into Kickstartering the Polysmoother, my opinion is that this is a dead product now. So this can also happen, and there is not a big company behind that. So this is actually the right way to do a Kickstarter. You know what you're into. The project can fail. These companies are discovering in the process of doing the Kickstarter, they are discovering how to actually manufacture the product and probably find out that it's not doable and too expensive, and they did charge not enough money. And yeah, so this is actually what Kickstarter was actually supposed to be. And there's risk, right? There's always risk involved. So I get it that if you're Kickstartering a Creality product, there's probably not much risk involved, but it's more a marketing perspective that makes it attractive to them. The next thing I want to talk about is quality control and misusing the user as a beta tester. And this is happening all the time, especially if you get review units. And these review units are pre-production units, which are gonna be changed in the process of becoming a real product. So there's lots of these product tests going on where people get sent these pre-production units. This was the same case for the CR30, but also for other devices. The problem with making a review on a pre-production unit is that it is not the real thing. And it will change over time. It will change until it's the real product. So you can't really say that it's going to be exactly the same. You also will discover problems that are probably not in the final product. So what's the point of making that kind of content? This is just my take on pre-production units. So I don't use pre-production units in my videos. I always want to have something that is final. For the actual user, if they get a product, quality control is something that companies are probably saving the most money on. So they send out units that are broken, that aren't working. So I could have made a very good review about a product, which is actually positive. And then in the long run, the companies are sloppy with the quality control and people are complaining that these products aren't working. So that is really something that is happening, and that's for real. And the problem with most of these products is they are too cheap to get good quality control and also good software. We're going to talk about software in a bit. What companies are mostly relying on in this case, especially if they have a product that is just half-baked, so to say, and where the quality is just as good that they can make it, and then expect the user to do the beta testing or the fixing, is that there is a community around the product that is going to take care of the product after it's been released to the market. So there's actually good communities around a few printers like the Ender 3 series or the ANIT A8, and they have grown over time. So if you're getting a product, then my recommendation is to look what is the community around that product. Is it a good community? But the other side of the story is that manufacturers are kind of relying on these communities to not having to invest too much money to make a really perfect product, but they just make it as good enough as possible and then release it to the market because they expect the community to fix bugs and issues with the product with upgrades and modifications. So is this a good thing? Well, if you're into tinkering, this might be nice, but actually if you're trying to use a product for something professional, I think this is not working. So one example where a manufacturer clearly failed to release a good product, especially in terms of the software, is Creality with its Ender 3 V2. So the software not supporting the screen properly that came with the printer, and just releasing a basic Marlin firmware with that printer that doesn't contain any kind of special features, or it's not special features, it's standard features that aren't enabled, like corner bed leveling, for example, because the screen is not supporting these features in terms of having a menu to use them. And then someone like Gyres comes in and creates a firmware for the Ender 3 V2 specifically to fix this problem. It's awesome. Of course, it's awesome that this Gyres firmware exists for the Ender 3 V2, but it's also a shame that Creality didn't do this themselves and that someone else has to step in and take all this responsibility, and now taking a completely independent branch from Marlin. All the work that went into that is not paid by Creality, so they are completely relying on other people to fix their problems. So especially the software side of things is where most printer manufacturers, in my opinion, are failing to put in the required time, because let's be honest, the hardware is the little problem. The software is actually the big problem, because if you're not investing time into the software, the product is not working. And software can change so much about a product quality and the perception of the user and the usability, that it is definitely something that companies should put more effort into and not rely on someone like Gyrus Firmware to fix what they didn't do. So in the end, this is just making them more money. Like, let's be honest, not putting effort into software. Software is expensive. Software engineers are expensive. It's going to be more money for the company if they just go the sloppy way and the easy path and just put some very basic software in the printer that just barely makes this product work. And then, yeah, the community is going to take care. We make more money with that. And finally, let's talk about like product life cycles and market saturation again. So product life cycle, it might be one reason why companies aren't putting a lot of effort into their products, because they know that this product is not going to be on the market longer for than a year or so, or at least in a year there's going to be a new version of the product, and so they can't invest too much time into making this a perfect product. They are actually already thinking about the next version of the product, and so they release products in a very saturated market, and the life cycles are actually pretty short. And there's companies who are doing this. I'm not going to name anyone, but I think there is companies having way too many variations of a product, even in a single variation of the product. They even have more variations where the consumer is totally getting confused about what is actually in this device. What is, like, for example, what mainboard is in that printer? What do I get? Is it 8-bit? Is it 32-bit? Is it the 32-bit mainboard with the silent drivers? Is it not having silent drivers? It completely confuses the consumer, and I totally get why. And a few companies out there that do this right, for example, Prusa. I mean, I know that Prusa is way more expensive than a Creality Ender 3, but the thing is, what Prusa actually doesn't do is they don't release a printer every year, and they don't try to make as many different products as possible. Instead, if you think about it, they release a product every few years, but they also iterate. They just improve their products step by step. And even if you have an older product, an older i3 Mark III, you can upgrade to the latest version by buying an upgrade kit. Show me one manufacturer that does this kind of approach. Most of them are just interested to sell you the new version, and they are not interested to like make the old version upgradable with just a few dollars of investment. I think that is a good example where Prusa is actually doing the right thing. I don't want to like brag about Prusa, but it is really something that you have to consider in the end when you do a buying decision. What is the manufacturer's way to approach the market, and is it responsible? Is it sustainable? And is it in the long term for you better if they just release a new product every year and at some point you will have to buy a completely new product, or are you more in the upgrade way? So I know this has been a long video, and I hope you got some insights into my thoughts and what's going on behind the scenes with product reviews and relationships with manufacturers. And definitely check out MakersMuse's video that he made a few weeks ago. I've linked it in the description down below. So I see you next time on this channel for another video, probably about 3D printing or maybe another topic. So let's see. Bye bye.